Okay, it's 3 minutes after here now, and so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Got quite a few people on the line. So I want to first start by saying thank you for everyone for attending. We've got people from many countries on the line here, and even special thanks to those people in Europe who are staying up a bit late to attend here. And on the line here, I'm Robert Hilton from Transpara, and we've got Michael Saucier as well. Say hello, Michael.
Hello, Michael.
And just as a reminder of what we're doing here today, we're going to show off the newest release of Visual KPI, which is Visual KPI V5. And in the process, we have a lot of new people on the line, so we're going to also give a bit of a refresher about just what Visual KPI is, what its main functionality is, and then if possible, we'll spend a majority of the time actually in the software showing it, not here in PowerPoint. So as the meeting progresses, please feel free to ask questions through the Q&A or the questions tab in the GoToMeeting control panel, and we'll answer most of those at the end unless something important comes up. And Michael, if I could, I'll ask you to sort of keep an eye on that question thing as I'm doing the talking here at the beginning. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to, like I mentioned, spend just a little bit of time in PowerPoint here showing some of the basics of Visual KPI and then highlighting some of the goals for this new release. And then we'll switch over to the software and start showing it. So in one slide here, I'm going to try to show the basic concepts of the entire software application. So what Visual KPI is really focused on is first, reading data in real time from almost any data source out there. It could be data historians like OSI SoftPy or AspenTech or GE or any of those. It could be relational databases. It could be business applications like SAP. It could be third-party web services, and even Excel data. And what's important about this is that we're reading that data, we're not moving it. So unlike a traditional business intelligence application or data warehouse, we are not moving that data and not becoming a new master source of that data. In fact, we assume that you're going to leave the data in the place that makes the most sense for you. And if that's many places at the same time, that's great too. Second thing we do is we add context to that data. And that can be added either through our design tools, or that can be added if you have that data in a third-party system already. We can read it much like we read a data source. So things like PyAF or even custom applications built on databases, etc. If that metadata or that configuration data, things like targets and limits for KPIs, geolocation information, who's responsible for a KPI, how it should be alerted, all those pieces of information and a lot more, if those exist in a third-party system, we can get it there, or you can simply add it in our Visual KPI Designer. Now, once we have these two pieces of information, meaning the data itself and the metadata about that data, then we have all the makings of a visualization component. So we can then visualize the software, and unlike other BI tools or other visualization tools, it is a finished application that you just configure. So you don't need to go in and custom code or custom create all of your applications or figure out what device they're going to work on. We've done all that for you, and you have a whole selection of visualizations you can choose from, and then a whole bunch of new features in this software, in this latest release, that I'll cover off with you. So you have the ability to visualize and then also do your own personalization of what's been made available to you. And I'll show that to you when we get to the demo. And lastly, our software is not targeted specifically at analysts. It's more targeted at people who have a job to do and need to know how they're doing or need to know how their equipment is performing or other metrics. And so it's very important that we have an alerting component to tell you when you should pay attention to the software, when something's going wrong, or when there's an opportunity. So in a nutshell, these four major components are what make up Visual KPI and what make it tick. So a little bit about who uses it. We have a heavy component of energy and utilities, oil and gas, mining, and other heavy industry, And now it's starting to even break into a lot of other areas, including financial data and retail data and logistics data. But you'll see what all of these companies have in common is that they're very operationally driven. They care very much about what's happening right now, and when problems take place or machines go down, it's very expensive and very time-consuming. So that's really the space in which this software excels. So the way people get benefit from it, I'm not going to go through this slide in detail because everybody has a little bit different story, but some of the common themes we see are reducing or eliminating unplanned downtime, improving regulatory compliance, increasing throughput, or decreasing waste or extra cost or inefficiencies in people's performance. And you'll see an example of one of our customers on the right here of how they saved and how much money they save. And we have a few other examples. People like Dominion is an example where they've been able to eliminate unplanned downtime completely, which is clearly savings in the millions of dollars per year. You have some spot examples where people like Genentech have saved an entire batch just because they were alerted to something going wrong on a weekend or some other place where they weren't immediately available. They were able to go into the office, fix the problem, and save, what could be a multi-hundreds of $1,000 batch of pharmaceuticals. So we have a long list of stories like that. I won't go through all of them, but that's sort of the main themes and the way people save or get benefit from the software. So what we're really here to talk about today in this webinar is what we've been working hard on for the last couple of years and what we've recently released, and that is Visual KPI version 5. And for those of you familiar with our software and who are already customers, you're going to see some major differences. Those of you who haven't, just stick with us here and you'll see some interesting, fun stuff. So what we had as priorities or what we had as our goals with this release was, first of all, rather than for just engineering or operations in a company, what we wanted is we wanted the software to be beautiful in a way that you'd be proud to put it in front of your CEO and have them be proud to show it to their board members and everybody else. So it needed to be beautiful and simple and understandable by anyone. And that ties into the second one, which is we wanted to further reduce the need for you to train somebody on this software. So even though you might have very sophisticated, very detailed data flowing into the system, the end result needs to be so obvious that even a person who's brand new at your company takes a look at this and can immediately see where they have problems and drill into them without you having to walk them through and train them on the software. The third one is we've always been a web application, so not a local application you install on your device, and in the past that meant looking like a web page. But with today's underlying technology and some of the things we've put to use, we now are a full-fledged competitor with any local application. It's animated, it's fast, it's beautiful, and that ties into the next point, which is it's alive. So in the previous versions of Visual KPI, we had live trends, where you could just sit and watch a trend, and as the data updated in the data source behind it, it would update on the screen in front of you. And now the entire application is like that. So when a KPI changes status or some other measure changes, right without you touching or ever refreshing a page, it's just going to change before your eyes. And the last one, and probably the most dramatic change to the software, is that we've added a whole new concept of personalization for individual end users. So the ability that if an administrator has made 500 KPIs available to you in certain grouping and everything, you have the ability to then take all that information available to you, organize it how you want, display it how you want to, and favorite the things that matter most to you. And I'll show all of those to you starting right now. So let me get out of PowerPoint here. And if you see here, I have a web browser on the left, just Google Chrome, and on the right I have a mobile simulator here showing an Android device And just to remind our new users of some of the key concepts of Visual KPI, number one, it all runs in a web browser, even when it's on your phone or tablet, or even on a large screen in a control room, or just on your laptop or desktop. So you don't need to install any software on the client side. Second is that all of our visualizations are really targeted at mobile first. So you'll see some things that are a little different than you might be used to, like big pie charts or speedometers, and I'll explain how we do things a little bit differently that makes it a little better on both small and large devices. So let me just give a little bit of a tour here of the software. So if I look down the left here, you see I have the navigation. For those of you familiar with our previous versions, this came across the top. But by putting it along the left, and you'll see it's here on the mobile device as well, it means you get more real estate here at the top to use for your data. It also means you can get it out of the way very easily. So this is the main way you navigate, with groups being sort of the top level, KPIs, trends, and tables being some of the types of data that you can look at. And then up here at the top, you see the timestamp. That's showing me just how fresh my data is. And then you see a little refresh button there that's spinning. And that is really not necessary anymore, because there's no need to really refresh a page. Because in reality, all this data, and you can see some of it moving here without me clicking on anything, and you'll probably see some of these KPIs change state while I'm demoing here without me clicking on them or without me refreshing anything. That's because it's all live, and it's not refreshing an entire page, so it's actually fairly lightweight in terms of how much data it's sending across the wire. Up here at the top, I also have something called the Watchlist, which I'll get to in a minute, and then you have the logo up here, which can be replaced with your own. Then you have a row of breadcrumbs here just below that, which is empty because I'm on the dashboard, and then some site-wide things you can do under this gear icon, and that changes based on what page you're looking at. And so let me click around just a little bit and show off a few more of those basic concepts for everybody. So KPIs are obviously front and center for our application, and so color and status means a lot. And so this groups page, this groups roll-up view, is one of our customers' favorite visualizations. And what it's showing is, no matter if I have 10 or 100,000 KPIs here, it still shows me where do I have my problems. And this shows off the groups and even the total. So I can see I have about 387 KPIs in this demo system, and which percentage of them are good, right? 308 are good. And then the children of this master group, and those can be organized any way you want. So these are the concept of groups, and there can be as many groups as you want and as many levels of groups as you want. So let me click in a little bit here, one level. And again, to this roll-up view, one of the most important things is the size and shape of this. So if I do this on the mobile device as well, you'll see something really important. A lot of visualization software would use a pie chart for something like this. And pie charts, we learned very early on, are they're inefficient. So first of all, on a mobile device, they're very large. They take up a lot of screen real estate. Second, they're very hard to read, especially when you have a lot of small percentages in them. And the last one, and probably the most important, is that they're hard to compare with each other. So we have these flattened roll-up views, which are like a steamrolled pie chart, and they show you the ability right next to each other to see and compare and put a lot more data on the screen. So I'm going to drill in one more level here into the Exton plant site. I'll do that also on the phone. So you can see now this view. And once I get down to a KPI, this is at the KPI level now, I'm down into the bottom of the tree. You'll see I have a list of KPIs, and very rapidly did I just pull up 20 plus trends live from data sources, including bullet charts and a lot of other visualizations. And now this is a good spot to show some of the major changes to the user interface as well as just the visualizations. And it's now a lot more responsive than even it used to be. So if I shrink this down a lot, I lose some columns. I lose my navigation bar. As I get down to small, if I go back up, I get some of that information back. And now we really efficiently use the amount of screen real estate that you have. So the more I can show, the more I do show. And also, if you're on a small device and you lost all those other visualizations, it doesn't mean they're gone. If you just click on this icon here, you'll see that right under the KPI, I still have all the other visualizations, and I even have some additional information. What are all of my targets and limits? What links do I have out to other things? What actions can I take? Who's responsible, etc. So I never lose the information. It's just hidden and uses the screen real estate in the most efficient way. Now for existing users, let me show you a couple of new things to the software. You see our status icons here and a couple of other icons right next to it. So in the upper left, you see a little alert icon, and that means in addition to this KPI being in a triple low state based on its icon, it's also in an alert state and on your watch list. And I'll talk about the watch list concept in a minute, but this is another way for you to just get a little more context to say, hey, this is not just in triple low, it's also one of my favorite KPIs, and it happens to not be in a good state. And then the lower left, you see a clock icon, and the clock icon means it has changed recently. And that's a setting that's up to the user or the administrator to say, how fast is this data we're looking at, and at what speed do I want to alert people that things have changed recently? So if I'm looking at slow-moving data, I might want to say which ones have changed status in the last 24 hours or the last week. If I'm looking at very high-speed data, show me which ones have changed in the last 5 minutes. All right, so some additional context there. And then while I'm down at this level here on KPIs, I want to show a few of the new visualizations that are there. You already see the spark lines, which are normal Visual KPI, and now we have the bullet chart. And I'm going to actually switch to the bullet chart view. I'll do that over here on the mobile device as well, which focuses in on the bullet chart. And this is the equivalent of a speedometer in that it tells us right now how are these KPIs doing compared to their targets and limits. So for example, this HR KPI is in the green and it's just above its target. So the horizontal line is its actual value, and the ranges are shown here as the colors, and the vertical line is the target itself. So a very useful and very smart animated tool for showing how we're doing right now. And then at any point on any one of these list views, you have the ability to click on any of the visualizations or the status and go right to a trend of that. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on trends here because I think everybody uses them heavily. But again, it's a real-time trend. So if I zoom in here and use some of the tools and go right in to a deep level, you'll see that this trend is going to update right in front of me without me touching anything because there's a lot of data coming into this. It's also downsampled, which is normal for some historian users, but we downsample for any data source. So we have the ability to even take a relational database data, and if you had a trend with 10,000 points, but you only had a screen that was 300 pixels wide, we only send the amount of data you're able to display. And when you zoom in, we go get more. That's the same thing if I go back in time. So if I drag here and go back in time, once I let go of the mouse, it fills in more data. And that's actually getting it live from the data source when I do that. There's a lot of other tools on our trends, things like cursors and the ability to lock cursors and compare information. There's also a lot of zoom tools and snap to and changing your time range to either a list or custom time ranges or even exporting trends. So quite a bit there on trends, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it because we could talk all day. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up and show one of our visualizations that has existed for a long time but has been completely redone. And that is the KPI map. So I'm going to click on Region Northeast on the bar here, which takes me over to the KPI map view. And this is where you're looking at a set of KPIs in a very visual, very colorful way to make it painfully obvious where you have issues. In this case, I'm looking at a region with 3 sites in it and a set of KPIs for each site. So that's how it's grouped. And in the past, our KPI map had a good amount of information, but to get any more, you really had to click and go to a trend and then go get additional details. Now you have a little bit more visualization. So you have a little more control over what's displayed here. You also have those added contextual icons like has it changed recently and is it in alert and on my watch list. But now you have the ability to open these up and compare them to each other. So I can just keep opening up and do whatever I want, take a look at whichever ones matter, close them back down, and then by clicking on the name it closes it, or clicking on the trend goes right to the live trend. I also have the ability to see links right attached to a KPI. So if this was a link out to some instructions about what to do, I could just link out and read those instructions right from my device. So the other thing is I want to show just a little bit of how you do quick analytics on a set of KPIs. So for example, I may care more about just where I have problems. So I'll take away things that are good, take away things that are not in service, and see I now have just a smaller list or a more efficient list of where I need to work. But it's still sorted by site name here, and I may want to sort it a different way. And this is really important, especially for new users who haven't seen the software before. You have the ability to group things by sort of some default ways that come out of the box with Visual KPI, but down at the bottom, you have the ability to add custom attributes. So when you set up a KPI, you can add all kinds of other metadata to it that help you sort it, that help you group it, that give your users the ability to ask interesting questions of the data. Like if I was in maintenance, per se, and I work on different types of things, I might say, let's sort this by unit type. And now I see I have a lot more problems going on in my coal units than I do in my gas units. So I know where I should be working next. So that's a little bit about the KPI map there. Let me reset this back to where everything is still where it's supposed to be. And then let me show you one other major visualization type. I'm going to go up to the top here and go to the map example group. And now you see I have the Geo Maps view, which we've had in previous releases, but it has also been rewritten significantly. I'm going to click into North America here. Let's go into the US, go into California. Now while I'm here on California, I want to show you one of the major things that's new. First of all these are again live. They're showing you the current status of all these, and if they change, it'll change here without me refreshing. But in the past, if you had hundreds of things on a map, they would just overlap each other. And now if I zoom out, you'll see when they start to overlap each other, they just make instant ad hoc groups that show me how many groups of information are in there, plus the combined total of their status here. If I keep going, you'll see now I'm at 4. And if I want to just explode that back out, I click on it. And if I click further in and keep going, oh, yep. And then I'll switch this over to satellite. You'll see I have a group of KPIs right here in the harbor in San Francisco on a boat. So, and the same visualization thing occurs here on the Geo Maps. You have the ability to open and close these, compare them to each other, and click to go right to the trend. So that is some of the major new visualizations there. And I showed some of the responsiveness. And now I want to show what an alert looks like. So I have one open here. And I just want to show a quick example of what an alert can look like. So you have a lot of context included in our alerts, plus the ability for alerts to be escalating or some really, or control what appears in the alert as well. So this is an alert where everything is turned on, so you can see sort of the maximum state. And it tells you a lot more than just something went wrong. It tells you what happened. In this case, actually something went right. I had a KPI that was in a bad state and it returned to a non-alertable state. And I can see what it was, what it became, when, the entire alert history. I could even see other information about it. And then one of the most important things that's contained in our alerts is this link. So this link here is a link right to the live trend. It's going to go there. That shows exactly where the alert took place. So this is when it returned to a good state. And no matter how new or old this alert is, it always shows me where that took place, what led up to it, and what has happened since. So very important for showing a lot of context. So that's a bit about alerts, and now I want to focus in now on some of them, on one of the most major changes in Visual KPI version 5, and that is personalization. So when I first open this up, and I'll do this over here, you go to the dashboard, and I'll do it over here on the phone as well. We now have the concept of user personalization. So people can now create either by role or just for themselves as a user their own unique ways to look at information. So the way that's encapsulated is in something called a profile. So if I open up here, I have this profile selector, and I can do this from my device, from any device, and I can say, what role am I, or what, it could be just my name. This could be a profile called Robert, and I have these. I've created a few sample ones here. The one I'm on is Power Gen, and what a profile consists of is the dashboard, which is how you want to view things, and this up here in the upper right, the watch list. And the watch list is like a favorites list of KPIs for you, the end user. And that could be, or the way I like to think about it is, these are the KPIs that my boss cares about, or the ones that get me promoted if they're going well, or the ones that get me fired if they're going poorly. These are the ones I really care about the most. So I may have hundreds of KPIs I can look at, but this might only be just 10. So let's go take a look at those really quick. If I look at this watch list, I've got a few on here, and you can see they're already sorted by whether they're in alert or whether they're not in alert. And I have the same control over this list as I do on anything else. I can view it by KPI Map if I want. I can view it as a bullet chart, you name it. I can also filter it. So I could do things like, let's take away all the good ones, first of all. Let's even take away the NA ones here. Get down to just the problem areas of my favorites list. And then I might group them by none. And now I have this very simple view, and then I may want to add that to my dashboard. So use the combination of the watch list right on the dashboard. And to do that with any view, you see I've completely customized this view. And now if I add to dashboard, and it gives me this green box that says click to configure the dashboard. So if I go over there, I'm at this new piece here called the Dashboard Designer. And in the Dashboard Designer, I have all the objects on my dashboard, and right down here at the bottom, it added this watch list. So since this is very important to me, obviously, I'm going to make it a little smaller, and I'm going to drag it right up to the top, right below these individual KPIs, and I'm going to click Save. And now right up here, I have that watch list. And so as things, and it's a filtered watch list, so it's only where there's problems. So if one of these turns good, then it will drop off of this list. If more of my favorite KPIs turn bad, then they will get added to this list dynamically. And as you saw in that designer, I have complete control over how I want to view things. So I could say, let's move this map over here. Let's move this watch list over here. Change the size of things. Save it. And now I've just reorganized my dashboard yet again. So a very powerful thing here. And what I want to do, one of the last things I want to do here is I want to show you just how one of these would get created. So I'm going to go over here to Change Profile. And I'm going to create a new one. And let's call this Maintenance. Save that. And now I have an empty dashboard. And the way I would go do that, and I also have an empty watch list because I created a brand new profile. So one of the first things I might do, let me get my filters off here. I'm going to go add some KPIs to my watch list. So I'm down here, add a list of KPIs, and there's an icon here called Add to Watch List. If I do that, I can then just pick a few that I really care about. I'll just pick some at random and say add those to my watch list. And now those are added and 4 of them are in a not good state. So that already shows me for that. And I could just click around to other parts of the application and do that as well. Now the other thing I want to do is add some items to the dashboard. Let's add some individual KPIs first. So I'm just going to pick a few. Let's pick, I'll pick, let's choose that one as well. Let's choose one that's a little bit in a good state. Add those to the dashboard. That's the first thing I'll do. And if I just look at the dashboard now, you see I just have a few individual KPIs, and let's make those nice and small and arrange them across the top. Those are just things that are really important to me, you can see. And now I'll go elsewhere in the application, add a few more interesting things. So maybe I want to add that watch list. Let's do it with everything involved. Add it to the dashboard. And maybe I'm the maintenance person for Region Northeast, so I care about everything that goes on in Region Northeast. Let me just add that to my dashboard. And then we'll drill in on something that's maybe a little more important here. Let's go to a list view of the KPIs. Let's filter it. Let's take out the not in service. Now I have an interesting view. Let's make it a bullet chart. And let me add that to my dashboard. Now I have a few things going over here on the dashboard. Let's make them a little more narrow. Maybe put this bullet chart view up here. See what it looks like now. So I have a few interesting things going. Let's go up here and get to, oops, let's turn this off, and go look at the map. And let's say, just as an example, US, let's pretend it's California here, and add this to our dashboard. And let's bring this here up to the top, make it a little taller, and save. So you can see just briefly how I've been able to build a dashboard really quickly, and I could do this right from my phone, even with my finger rather than a mouse. Any way that I want to organize that information, I can. And now, if I go over to the phone and change the profile here and choose that new maintenance profile that I just created, you'll see that same information just show up right here on my device. Same map, all collapsed and all right where I need it. So let's, we're now at about 10:36, and I want to spend as much time opening it up for questions as possible. So let me just highlight a few things. We talked about the new user experience of the software. We talked about profiles and personalization. I'm going to change this back to the Power Gen 1. We talked about all the new visualizations that are available in the software, and all of the live updating. So there's one brand new feature. So we released this a couple of months ago, but we've added, as we always do, features on a regular basis. So I'm going to show you one right here. This is on a separate demo, on our mining demo, and we've just added the ability to do trend comments. So you can see here, I have this comment ability here, and I can even view these existing comments. So we have a comment here on a range, and we have a single comment here. And I'm going to show you how I would just take this comment that Christian made here that said, hey, we came back online. And I'll say, let me reply to it. And say, great news. Thanks. So now I have the ability, and right there I've got my replies, and at any time I can either hide those or even turn off the comment mode on a trend. So that is the majority of what I wanted to show you today, and show you all these new features and the new look and feel of Visual KPI version 5. So let me go back to PowerPoint here and open this up for questions.
Hey Robert, it's Michael.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something. During the past couple of weeks when we've installed the new version with the comments, we've had particularly positive reviews on them, and what's becoming clear is it's the first step towards making Visual KPI more collaborative and team-centered instead of just making individual people more effective with the individual KPIs that they need and they want to watch. The comment capability really draws people into kind of a virtual team where anybody can comment, anybody who has the rights to comment within Active Directory can make comments and actually avoid meetings, for example, just to get status updates on why a certain event happened. Anybody can go look anytime they want. So what we're seeing is that this is a big step towards making Visual KPI kind of a centerpiece in collaboration.
Great, thanks, Michael. And also, Michael, I know you've been watching sort of the Q&A, and I know there's been quite a few. Do you want to highlight any of those for the group?
Yeah, well, I've entered them in writing, but a couple of the comments that came in were particularly interesting. One is from Frank. Thanks, Frank. Is it kind of when data changes anywhere in the system, does the KPI respond to it, or is it just the actual value? And the fact is that if you've got dynamic data bound up to any part of a KPI, when any of that data changes, the overall status, the calculations, the graphs, anything that's dependent on that value is going to dynamically change without a refresh. Just when that data changes, that screen will update. So everything really is dynamic. The second thing is what technology, and this comes from Tripty, what technology are you using so that one solution can be functional across devices like BlackBerry, Android, and iPad? And so I told him that, well, first, we're a web app. So we're running inside the browser on every device. We're using HTML5 on all screens in the presentation layer. And in addition, we're using underlying frameworks like Twitter Bootstrap for the responsive behavior that Robert showed across device types and sizes, and SignalR for very high performance, scalable data transfer across the internet or intranet. And then Matt has asked, are the comments exportable to an external file? Great question. In fact, the first question that has been asked about comments every time we've installed it at a customer. So in fact, in the current build, it doesn't export, but in a future build very soon, it'll export the comments as either an option with the trend export or automatically with the trend export data. So right now, you can export any trend that you see on the screen with a simple click, and it'll either export to the device like a phone, or it'll export to Excel on a PC. One more question, can this perform data analytics? And this Robert addressed a little bit. It is a lightweight analytics component. This is not meant to do the heavy lifting of large-scale big data calculations, but we can certainly be one of the greatest ways to display the results once those calculations are performed in some other system, in fact, in any system. So that's kind of the highlight of the questions. Is there any other follow-up or any kind of verbal questions people have?
Well, we've got a lot of people on here, so I don't think we'll unmute everyone for verbal questions, but we'll, I just wanted to add on the analytics side. Michael used the term lightweight analytics. We'd also say sort of operational or in-the-moment analytics. We definitely do. It's more the long-term planning, or what an analyst who creates static reports or massages data over long periods of time, all of that. That's the part that we don't focus on. But as Michael said, when those people do those things, we're great at reading those. And also, in terms of like trending or making all these ad hoc trends or managed trends or other things, if you need to export that data and then do further analytics, we make that possible too. So I'll remind everybody, if they have any other questions, please type them into the question section in the GoToWebinar control panel. And Michael, I'll ask you, any other responses you've seen from customers as you've deployed version 5? Any other feedback or anything you'd like to highlight that you've seen out in the wild?
Well, I did get a great ad hoc comment from one particularly important guy here on the meeting here today. He said, he just wrote in, "This is dead sexy." So this is kind of the theme of response that we've seen in the last few months as we've deployed it since release. And what people are finding is that as they compare it to other ways that they had either evaluated, purchased, or abandoned in the past for visualizing data, they're seeing that we don't do every bell and whistle like a business objects or like a big Oracle framework, but what we've got is a handful of things that, if you need them, are just really easy to use and now at the same time sexy. So anytime you can add sexy and easy together and also add affordable, I think we got a winning combination. So the basic response from folks has been, this is great, why didn't you do this the first time?
Great, thanks, Michael. And we have another couple of questions. I'll answer the first one, which is from Frank again, which is, if a KPI is associated with a location, can the location be dynamic? And the answer is yes. So in the designer, which we didn't choose to focus on in this webinar, you have the ability to put a static location on any object in our system, not just a KPI. So it could be on a group, it could be on a table, it could be on just about anything. But also you have the ability to, instead of putting a static Latin long in there, to put a reference to a data source. So if you have moving trains and trucks or ships, and they have transponders on them, and that current location and even historical location is being tracked and stored in a data source, then you reference that data source just like you would with an actual value in a KPI, and you get the moving location. Which also highlights something that we haven't spent much time on in this webinar, which is we've shown you sort of the end result of making one of our solutions. What we haven't shown you in this webinar, and we won't show you in detail, but I want to describe to you, is what it takes to get up and running with this software. Because when you normally think about data visualization or business intelligence or dashboarding tools, you're really looking at a lot of work, a lot of time to create from scratch a lot of these things, to deploy them, to hook them up to data, etc. In our case, a deployment is about 90 minutes, and it's done over a web meeting, much like we're on today. And all we do is get on, install the software on your server, on a virtual machine, or even in the cloud, and then hook that up to your data sources, one or many, and then install the designer, create some KPIs, and hit save, and you already have a running solution, which you are then armed and dangerous enough to make better over the coming days. So usually within a week or 10 days, people have a really quite full-featured, and within a month, it's really, they could really be exploiting just about every feature in our system. And then we have another question here. What is the difference between Siemens XHQ and Visual KPI? Michael, do you know Siemens XHQ?
Sure. XHQ, yeah, right. This was a product from a company called Index, INDX, from a bunch of years ago, started by some really smart guys, Mike Gonzalez and Jeff Tropsa, ex-Wonderware type guys. And so they sold this. It was really an MES, kind of configurable MES product, visualization product, meant to compete with Lighthammer that came out of the Rick Bellata team. Lighthammer ended up selling to SAP, and these guys sold to Siemens. And the products have really had similar roadmaps after the absorption by the large companies. So I would say that the biggest difference is in time to value, from standing start time to value. Overall total cost of ownership is dramatically different among the two, and maintenance costs and maintenance commitment to the two products are very different. So on the one hand, on our software, on the left-hand edge of scale is low cost of ownership overall, operationally, kind of affordable, easy to maintain, pretty good, reasonable, I guess, service. We got some pretty good ratings on our support. And on the right-hand edge of scale would be, the opposite. Really, these other products are more complex, take longer to implement, and are less kind of ready to modify when the questions you want to ask of your data are different. So kind of a handcuff at the end of the day once you got it configured and working. Now, this is just the synthesis of many folks telling me what they think of these systems, because I have not personally bought these other software products, installed them, and maintained them. I'm simply repeating kind of a parable of tales that people have told me about their experiences.
Yeah, and it also plays into just how we sit compared to a lot of other vendors out there. There's either visualization tools that come with specific data sources, so from your historian makers or others that are really specific to that data source, and they can be extremely powerful. There's another category which would just be your traditional or more your modern BI companies like Tableau and ClickView and others, and they are also extremely powerful, but are tool sets. And so that means you have to go create what you want out of them. You start with a blank canvas. You have to worry about what you create and how it will look on certain devices and screen sizes, etc., even though they do support mobile and all that. But you have a lot of the onus is on you or on a consultant to come in and actually make what you want, and you have to really determine that. In our case, what we try to be, which is different from both of those categories, number one, we want to work across all data sources, and we don't want you to have to move your data because that immediately means large project. Second, we want it to be an application where you plug it into your data, it already starts deriving value, and you configure it over time and make small changes that only take minutes to make it add value. And sort of that last one is who it's targeted at. The Tableaus and ClickViews and Tibcos and Oracle and Microsoft and all those really targeted at a data analyst, somebody who sits in front of data all day, massages data, wants to ask really hard, really interesting questions and very customized questions of the data. That's not our main target. And then on some of the like historian tools or specific to a data source, those are usually targeted at a little bit more engineering level, which we sell a lot of stuff to engineers, but at the same time, we want to be so obvious and so fast and so simple that it is immediately clear where your issues are, that you don't spend a staggering amount of time on the software or on the project to get value out of it. Michael, anything else you might want to add? And if not, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that we're in good shape. No, I don't have anything to add here. I'll talk forever if you give me the opportunity, but the time comes to shut up once in a while and listen to other people.
That's right.
Now we're waiting for the folks that are on the call today to call us up and challenge us with your most difficult scenarios and see if we've got the mojo to solve it.
Great, and we'll leave with one last comment, which came in not a question, but came in from Frank, which is, "Love it. Thanks." So with that, I think we'll wrap it up and let you get back to your day. And for those of you in Europe, thanks for staying up late. Please feel free to contact us at any time. Just use info@transpara.com or our number here. The last thing I'll say is this webinar was recorded, and so we will make this available over the web probably within the next 24 to 48 hours. So thank you again for your time, and have a great day.